welcome on into another episode of Auburn Anonymous. I am your host, Miles SB. You can find me on X at Ashton Daniels AA. I'm joined today by my co-host, Mr. Michael SB. You can find him on X at Jackson Arnold AA. Michael, how are you doing post-selection Sunday?
Well, I was hoping for a better draw, if I'm being honest. It seems like some of the 2 and 3 seeds got an easier draw. It's even debatable that Michigan State has an easier draw on their side than Auburn does. But at the end of the day, it's nothing that we can't handle. Texas A&M in the Sweet 16, if they're able to beat Yale and get through the winner of who do you remember who Texas A&M plays? I don't even remember the bracket off the top of my head, but they could end up playing UC San Diego. I know a lot of people are picking them in the upset in that game, but yeah, that would be a tough one. But at the end of the day, we get to play the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 in Atlanta, and Auburn has a very good history of playing basketball in Atlanta. So if Auburn can get to the Sweet 16, I feel very confident we'll make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, just ask Nebraska and Ohio State what it's like to play Auburn in Atlanta. They wouldn't give you very good reviews. But yeah, I mean, my knee-jerk reaction was to be upset. I feel like outside of the year where Auburn played in Birmingham as a 9 seed, we've just seen time and time again Auburn get screwed in these brackets. Heck, in 2019, as you well know, to go to the Final Four, we had to beat Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky back to back to back, and they were all very good that year. So you knew that they weren't going to be very favorable to us, even though we're the number 1 overall seed. Of course, we get returned the favor of going to a team, an 8 seed, where we're playing in their home state in Louisville. I mean, of course, that they're going to do that to us. They don't do that to any other 1 seed. They do it to Auburn, of course, where we have to go and play in a different state where a team with a much worse seed than us is at home. You can't expect it to be fair. And then Michigan. Michigan's a tough matchup. I mean, they got 2 really good big men. And, of course, just to troll us on top of it, they put Yale in our bracket. Not cool.
Yeah, I think the only team that got it worse than us was Louisville. I mean, listen, they're a top 10 team in the AP poll. They got to play Creighton in the first round. And then they got to play Auburn in the second. I mean, that's less than a 10% chance in my eyes of them even seeing the Sweet 16 after having a top 10 season. So I'm a believer that Louisville's a pretty solid team, but I'm also a believer Creighton's a solid team. So I think that'll be off the top of my head, I don't know who I would pick in that matchup. And I know a lot of Auburn fans aren't too happy that we have to play in Louisville. We have to play in Lexington, so in Kentucky, against Louisville in our second round matchup if they win. But you got to think about it this way. 1, we beat Kentucky in Lexington by 20 points at their home stadium. So we had a pretty good game in Lexington so far already this season. And also, I'm sure you've thought about this. 2 years ago, we were an 8 seed, and we played Houston, who was a 1 seed, in Birmingham. So I would say it's a little bit of karma coming our way, and that it's nothing we can't handle, though. If we can't beat Louisville or Creighton in Kentucky, then we don't deserve to be in the Final Four anyway. So that's my take on it.
I could not agree with you anymore. We can't beat Louisville in the state of Kentucky. We don't deserve to. We don't deserve to advance. And something else that I saw out there, I saw where someone said, "Look, this might not work as bad for you as you think, Auburn, because we travel. Our fans travel as good as any college fan base." And then there's going to be, I promise you, Kentucky fans are big basketball fans too, and it's in Rupp Arena. So, I mean, those fans are crazy enough and hate Louisville enough where Kentucky fans will go just to go pull for Auburn, assuming it's Auburn versus Louisville. That will be a thing. Now, let me ask you this. First, let me ask you, have you made a bracket yet?
I made one last night, and I decided, in the past I've went back and I've edited it. I made a gut bracket, and I'm not changing it right after the selection show came out.
Okay, so before we kind of dive into the bracket, just out of my curiosity, what is the lowest seeded team you have winning a game?
I'll have to go back and look at that. Either a 13 or a 14. You tell me yours first. I'm going to look right now.
Yeah, so I there was a couple I waffled on. I thought about picking Lipscomb over Iowa State. I didn't. The one. See, here's the thing. I feel like the ones that the people that everyone's on, they never happen. They absolutely
Yep.
so like. I feel like everyone is predicting McNeese to beat Clemson.
UC San Diego.
Yeah, UC San Diego to beat Michigan. So I have Michigan advancing. The team, and I've heard, to be fair, I've heard some people talk about the team I'm going to say, but it's not as much as a lot of the others. And that's going to be High Point. I have High Point. I mean, you look, they just, here's the thing. If it comes down to it, do I think Purdue's going to win? Probably Purdue's going to beat them, but it's no fun to make a bracket and not pick an upset or two here and there. And I think High Point, they just won a lot of games. They've been a tough out all season, even for the big teams they've played. So,
Yeah.
why not High Point?
Yeah, let me tell you, Purdue's in some trouble because I also picked High Point. Yeah. Yeah, this goes back to the beginning of the season. I remember, I keep up with all of Alabama basketball, and I remember UAB basketball, who has a pretty good team, one of the best teams that didn't make the tournament, honestly, as far as talent-wise goes, with the Oxel on the board. They went into High Point, and they got beat pretty easily to start the season. And I remember thinking High Point, UAB just lost that. Maybe UAB is not as good as I thought, but no, High Point's a very good team, right out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And Purdue's one of those teams they lost to a 16 team 2 years ago. They're not going to kill you with their athleticism. So I could easily see High Point. They're going to be able to hang with them physically. Yeah, so I could see that. I could see it going either way, but I'm with you. I picked High Point, and I almost picked Troy, but I didn't just because I'm not a big believer in Kentucky this year. But I'm also not a big believer in Troy, so I went with Kentucky.
Yeah, I nearly went with Troy just to be like a homer, but I was like, and then also I'm with you. Like, I think Kentucky is a horrible 3 seed. Like, I think, like, Michigan in the 5 seed, for example, scares me way more than Kentucky as a 3 seed. Like, I would much rather play Kentucky in our Sweet 16. Like, I'd be stoked if we play Kentucky. But one other thing I just got to throw out there. I see people all the time clown on us on Twitter. We see it. Y'all make fun of us, say that all of our predictions are wrong. Well, guess what? Remember this come the first 2 days of March Madness. Both of the members of the Auburn Anonymous crew have High Point beating Purdue. Putting that out there now for everyone to hear. So, Michael, do you want to dive into the bracket a little bit deeper and just kind of go region by region, give me your thoughts on what you think is going to happen?
Yeah, let me pull it up so I have it for you.
I have it pulled up already.
So you start it, and I'll tell you how I feel after you say it. I'm sure we have a lot of the same opinions since we're wrong. So
well, I mean, look,
so
it's going to be a lot of the same opinions because the best teams are the lower seeds. So a lot of the most that we're going to have them. So first, there's of course the South region. That's where the number 1 overall seeded and regular season national champion Auburn Tigers are. Of course, I have Auburn advancing. Now, but looking on this, teams that scare me: Michigan, Yale. I mean, quite frankly, if Yale finds their way to the Sweet 16, you can't be a little not scared if you're an Auburn fan. I don't know why. It's probably just name brand, but a part of me feels like North Carolina is just going to make it to the Sweet 16 somehow. Iowa State doesn't really scare me. I think it's Lipsy. I forget. One of their players is injured. It may not be Lipsy. And then, of course,
both of their guards, or two of their 3 big guards are hurt right now. I'm not sure what their status will be for the tournament, but
yeah. So I guess Michigan State has to be. They have a pretty good path with Iowa State not at full health. I think Marquette could definitely beat Michigan State. So I don't know. Marquette's a team to watch for me. Michigan State's a team to watch. I think Auburn matches up. I've said this before. I think we match up really well with A&M. I mean, we didn't have Denver Jones when we played them at A&M, and we have the additional fire that our players will have lit if we play them again because they beat us once. They don't worry me, but Michigan and Yale do worry me. So I kind of hope A&M finagles their way and makes it to the Sweet 16. What about you?
So looking at the bracket this year, I thought I'd do it a little bit differently. Going back to 2002, the national champion in offense has been top 40, and in defense has been top 25. And that qualifies for 12 teams this season. In Auburn's side, that's Auburn, Marquette, and there's Louisville. There might actually be, Auburn, Marquette. Oh, wow, more than I thought. Auburn, Marquette, Louisville, Michigan State, and Iowa State. So 5, actually, of the 12. But I have Auburn and Marquette in the Elite Eight. I think Marquette's a pretty solid team. They get an injured Iowa State team if they make it that far. I'm trying to pull up my bracket here. I don't have Memphis beating Colorado State, so I think they have a pretty... Wait, no, that's the Maryland bracket. I'm sorry, guys.
That's wrong, but hey, get a little spoiler there. You have Colorado State beating
I'm not going to lie. What scares me the most as far as Auburn goes has got to be Texas A&M, since we've already lost to Texas A&M. Now, they shot lights out at home, and we didn't have Denver Jones. So I don't think they're a better team than Auburn at all, and I think we should be favored if we play them on a neutral site, especially in Atlanta. But I can say they scare me just because they have beat us. I think Michigan State is. If I had to pick a 2 seed for us to match up with, it would be Michigan State. I'm not too scared of them. Obviously, Iowa State's hurt. And I don't know. I'm not too worried about this side of the bracket. If I'm being completely honest.
The only reason Michigan scares me a little bit is Vladdy Golden and Danny Wolf. I mean, they're two dominant, good big men. They're kind of gimme. They're going to be slow, but if they can slow the game down and pound the paint, they can be tough. But I think, as you said, in Atlanta, that'll be a big advantage. So we both kind of see Marquette. We both see Marquette as a sleeper there. That's interesting.
What doesn't scare me about Michigan is the fact that Trey Donaldson is their starting point guard and that he gets major minutes. He's obviously not going to get the Aiden Holloway treatment if we play him. He went to Michigan. Who cares? And he's another one of those guys. I'm not saying he was asked to leave, but we weren't going to pay him probably what he wanted, and so he checked out the portal. Denver Jones and Tahad Pettiford running the point guard. He would have been a good bench player for Auburn, but he's getting like 35 minutes a game over at Michigan. Their guards just aren't. They just don't compete with our guards. I mean, I actually, now looking at our bracket a little bit more, I'm actually pretty confident Auburn makes it to the Final Four. I really don't. I mean, I think the hardest matchup could be the 8-9 matchup.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you. We both have Auburn advancing to the Final Four out of this bracket. And one other comment I have to make before we get out of here. I saw where the official NCAA March Madness posts, they're posting celebrities brackets. And one of the so-called celebrities is Ryan Williams off the Alabama football team. And he had Alabama State beating Auburn in the first round. Of course, he's just trying to troll everyone because he's an Alabama fan who really only went to Alabama because of NIL, let's be honest. But, he's trolling. But here's what I have to say. If you paint your nails, your opinion's not valid when it comes to sports. Someone last week made fun of my arm size on Twitter. You know what? I might not be very strong, but guess what? My nails aren't painted, okay? My nails aren't painted. So my opinion matters more than Ryan Williams.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say.
Looking at Ryan Williams' bracket, it looks like he just picked his bracket based off college basketball since 1950. I mean, pretty sure he had UConn in the Final Four. He had Kentucky making a run. Yeah. If he picked against Auburn in the first round, like you're saying, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, he's either trolling or he's an idiot. Maybe it's both. I don't know.
Yeah.
Regardless, you want to move on to the next bracket?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So next we have the West region, and outside of Auburn's region, this one might be the toughest to me. Of course, you have Florida, who's as hot as anyone right now in college basketball. It's hard to pick against them right now. Looking at other teams in that bracket, I'm with you. I think Colorado State beats Memphis. Memphis is not a very deep team, and Tyrese Hunter, I believe, is going to be out for the NCAA tournament. Grand Canyon's going to be a tough matchup for Maryland, as always. I think Drake beats Missouri. I think they've only lost 4 games this season out of the Missouri Valley Conference. I mean, I know that's not a big conference, but that's one of the better mid-major conferences, and to come out of their whole season with only 4 losses, I don't care who you are, that's pretty impressive. And then you have the battle, if you keep going down the battle, of the 2 broken teams, Kansas and Arkansas. I mean, who wants to be either one of those teams right now? Fans of either one of those teams. That sounds pretty awful. They have another team that I believe that's only lost 4 games all season, St. John's and Rick Pitino. Real interesting. Who do you have coming out of this bracket, and what all do you see going on?
So coming out of the bracket, I have Maryland. I think this is going to be kind of a hot take, but I think Florida is not as good as everyone's hyping them up. They're the team to support right now. But if you really look at it, they lost to UGA a few weeks ago. We beat UGA without Janai Broom. I do think they're playing some good ball right now, but they haven't been consistent all year. I mean, they slip up every now and then, and I think they're going to slip up when they play the Maryland Terrapins. I think when we talk about big man duos, I think even better than Michigan, you have Julian Reese and top 10 pick Derek Queen as your big man. They have some good guards in Rice. So Maryland, and they're another one of those teams that's in the top 25 of defense on KenPom and top 40 on offense that have won the championship since 2002. So yeah, I like Maryland. I think Kansas. I picked them to lose to Maryland. I actually think Kansas could be scary, considering I know they do have the talent to make it that far. They just haven't seemed to put it together all season. Kansas. I don't know though. Yeah, you're right about what you said about Kansas and Arkansas. But Hunter Dickinson, he just scares me. I mean, he's a 7'2" center, 7'2", 260. He's hard to guard. I wouldn't be surprised if, honestly, if they came out of this region or if they end up matching up with Maryland or Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick a guy who's played in college basketball 10 years. He has a lot of experience, Hunter Dickinson. Look, a part of me really wants to pick Maryland. I'm kind of there with you. I didn't. I'm going with the chalk. I'm going Florida. I think St. John's is also. Honestly, I think really the top 4 seeds all have a legit. You can say this about any region, but I think really you can make a strong case for any of the top 4 seeds. I think Texas Tech's a really good battle-tested team. St. John's, I mean, they've been unreal this year, and Coach Rick Pitino is one of the. I mean, if you're naming the top 5 best coach in college basketball, his name's got to be on the list somewhere. He's great, and Maryland's been great this year as well. As you mentioned, that big man duo. But I'm biased towards the SEC. I like Florida, but I like the edgy Maryland pick. I did consider it 100% seriously.
And I think some of our takes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was just saying. I think some of our takes, a lot of our takes, have to do with what we've seen Auburn do against teams. Like, I don't have Ole Miss winning in the first round because I've seen Auburn just beat them, handle them pretty easily every single time they've played them. But that'll be an interesting matchup with them in the first round. I'm curious to see how Ole Miss will do. But I have them losing in the first round.
Okay, good stuff. Moving on to the East region. Looking over here, you have Duke as the best team in this region, as the number 1 seed. Some interesting games there. You got Mississippi State, Baylor, Oregon versus Liberty, Arizona Akron, BYU VCU, Wisconsin Montana, St. Mary's Vanderbilt, and Robert Morris, our new second favorite basketball team, playing Alabama. Who do you have coming out of this bracket? Who do you like? What do you see?
I've got Robert Morris. No, I'm just kidding. I got Duke. I got Duke playing BYU in the Elite Eight, and I got Duke winning. I think for Duke it was a pretty easy draw. Even if they end up playing Alabama, I think that's a pretty good matchup for Duke. I'm not too impressed with this bracket. That Oregon-Arizona game will be interesting if that happens. But I got Duke, Oregon, BYU, and Alabama in my Sweet 16. I think BYU and Alabama play pretty similarly. There will be a lot of three-point shot in that game. BYU's got a top 10 projected pick in Igor Demon from Russia, who ended up playing college. Going to be interesting. They have Richie Saunders, one of the best guards, one of the best shooting guards in America. And they got that coach who's been a long-time assistant with the Phoenix Suns. I'm a big fan of him personally. I think BYU upsets Alabama that would be the Sweet 16. And yeah, I think just Duke's going to be too much for whoever they see in the Elite Eight. Duke versus Arizona could be an interesting matchup if that happens, but I have Duke and Oregon.
Duke and Oregon. Okay, good stuff. So what I'm looking at, of course, it's hard to not have Duke at least going to the Elite Eight. Arizona, Akron, Oregon, Liberty. I mean, I could see the underdogs winning both of those. That's going to be tough. Ultimately, I have Arizona advancing and playing Duke in the Sweet 16. You had BYU going further than me. I I've been waffling back and forth on if I want them to beat Wisconsin or not in the round of 32. Here's an interesting note, and I don't know if you've thought about this. I heard this today on another podcast, and I thought it was interesting. VCU is a very trendy underdog. A lot of people are picking VCU, and for good reason. VCU is a really good team, won a very good conference, and VCU absolutely could beat BYU. But this game is being played in Denver, Colorado, with very high altitude, and as I'm sure you've heard, and a lot of people know, is once you play in that higher altitude, it's difficult on your breathing and that kind of thing. And BYU playing in Utah, Provo, Utah, is very used to that kind of thing. VCU, not used to that thing whatsoever, not used to playing in that kind of an environment at all. So, I mean, that's, again, VCU could win. That's not the end-all, be-all, but I think that's kind of an interesting factor that might help BYU get by in that first round against a very good VCU team. And one other thing I got to say. I know online that a lot of Alabama fans don't like me. But if there's one thing that I think they would all agree on is that I'm honest, and I always tell it like it is and what I really think. Alabama's not making the Sweet 16 this year. They're not making it. And I'm not kidding. You're smiling, you're laughing. I'm not kidding. I am completely serious. Because St. Mary's is going to beat them in the round of 32. Alabama's going to beat Robert Morris. St. Mary's is going to beat Vanderbilt. Randy Bennett can coach circles around Nate Oates. They play a much slower pace. It's going to be a very low-scoring game. They're going to get Alabama out of their usual fast break offense. And I'm telling you, Randy Bennett can coach circles around Nate Oates. And we're all going to see it, I believe, this upcoming Sunday, and I'm looking forward to it. So go Gales. And again, all these people can hate me, whatever, I don't care. But you know what? The results speak for themselves. St. Mary's over Alabama. And St. Mary's might even go further in the tournament. But I have Duke coming out of this region as well.
Yeah, I can't pick St. Mary's personally. Really because I'm pretty sure they've lost in the first round 7 straight years now. I do think they'll beat Vanderbilt, but they just haven't been great in the NCAA tournament, and I think part of that is they play in a weak conference. So I'm not quite there with you with St. Mary's, but they are an experienced team. I do think that would be a clash of styles, and it would be an interesting game.
Again, I think they're going to win it, but don't talk me out of believing it, because I want to believe they're winning it. That's all I can say. But I've taught myself I've had them advancing in my bracket.
Bama was supposed to play them last year. I said Alabama was supposed to play them last year, but they lost to Grand Canyon, and that's how they started their little easy road to the Final Four.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Hopefully they get their correct this year. I think they'd be a much tougher matchup for Alabama than Vanderbilt. I'll leave it at that. Last region to go over, then we can kick it over and talk about some other things, college football, college baseball, where we had a great weekend. The Midwest region. Kick it off with Houston and SIU Edwardsville. We got the 2Gs in the 8-9, Gonzaga and Georgia. Then we have Clemson, McNeese, Purdue, High Point. You and I both have High Point winning in that one. Illinois versus the winner of Texas Xavier. Kentucky versus Troy, UCLA, Utah State, and Tennessee and Wofford. Michael, kick us off. What do you think about this region?
This is going to be my biggest upset prediction of the whole tournament. It's not a first-round prediction. It's I got Gonzaga going to the Final Four. That's my big upset. I'm going for the perfect bracket this year, so I'm not going to just pick 1 and 2 seeds like everyone else. I think Gonzaga debatably has the best point guard in the country, leads the nation in assists, in Ryan Nembhard. And they got a top 5 center in the country as well, Graham Ike. They also got Nolan Hickman, who's been there for 5 years now. Former 5-star player, starts at the shooting guard. A couple of good big men, Ben Gregg. I just think they're a complete team. Oh, and can't forget Khalif Battle, who was on Arkansas last year, another solid player. So, I think this is one of those. I'm not a huge believer in Houston. I know they seem like the hot team, another hot team to pick right now. Another thought, I think McNeese State, as we said earlier, is another one of those teams that everyone's picking. I think Clemson's another one of those teams. I'll say it again. Top 40 in KenPom offense, top 25 in KenPom defense. I like Clemson there. We both picked High Point. So, my Elite 8 there ends up being Tennessee versus Gonzaga, and I got Gonzaga advancing.
Wow, I like it. I mean, can I just say I'm glad that Gonzaga is the 8th seed in Houston's region, not ours. I mean, can we just say I'd much rather play Louisville in Kentucky? I'd much rather play them in Louisville's arena in Louisville than play Gonzaga in a neutral floor. That's
Gonzaga
brutal.
and UConn are the scary 8-9. Yeah.
But here's what I will say, and I think Gonzaga will go play Houston in a vehicle game. But don't sleep on Georgia. Georgia could absolutely can take care of that, and they could beat Gonzaga in the first game. It's two very good teams. We see this region eye to eye, I think, just about. I mean, I'm on Clemson. I'm on Clemson to beat High Point. Clemson was there last year with a lot of this same group of guys. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to pick against them. Then I guess kind of my upset of this region is I have the Xavier Musketeers beating Texas, beating Illinois, and beating Kentucky. Have them go to the Sweet 16. I get it. Like, my bracket's boring, and I'm sure there's going to be some 7 seed, 10 seed that comes out of nowhere and goes to the Final Four. But I don't know. I'm picking all 1-2 seeds. I have Tennessee going on and playing Houston. I have Houston advancing. I mean, it's really a coin flip to me, but it's between those two teams. But it'll be fun. I'm sure our picks won't all be right, so it'll be fun to watch and see all the madness unfold.
So who's your Final Four one time, so we can have it on record?
Lock it all in. I have the most boring Final Four of all time. Give me the 4-1 seeds. Auburn, Duke, Houston, and Florida. And in the championship game, give me Auburn versus Houston, and give me the Auburn Tigers to be the national champions.
Yeah.
Give me your Final Four.
Yeah, Final Four, Auburn versus Maryland. In San Antonio, I think Auburn would have a lot more fans there. Then Duke versus Gonzaga. I got Duke. And so I got a rematch of the game in Cameron Indoor, Auburn and Duke. And I think just like last time, Auburn will be the better team, and we'll actually get the win this time, though. So, yeah, give me Auburn in a close one versus Duke. It'll be interesting to see how Cooper Flagg, how healthy he is. I'm sure he'll be back for at least the second round, of the tournament.
Okay. Perfect. I like it.
Oh, yeah, one more thing.
Sorry.
I've got a source close to, I have my sources all over. I got a source close to the Alabama program. It's looking like Grant Nelson is going to be out of the game versus Robert Morris on Friday. Should be over. They're targeting him to return on Sunday, but Grant Nelson will not be playing versus Robert Morris come Friday.
Okay. Breaking news out there for all that know, and AA knows, because a lot of people think that you don't have those sources, and so we're going to document that and put it out there.
And sorry, one more thing after this. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll see that we had some sources also close to the March Madness Committee. We were the first to announce Auburn as the number 1 overall seed early morning on Sunday. And I had some people in the comments saying, you better not be wrong. Well, we weren't. Some pretty good sources. It wasn't even a close of a decision with Auburn's quad 1 wins. They looked at quad 1 wins for everyone besides North Carolina. So we're good.
Yeah. A couple other things I got. While we're venting, one of the silliest things I'm seeing online today, and you know what? I was just like, I probably shouldn't stick my head in this argument because I have no dog in this fight, but I did it anyways. I'm not sure if you saw it. I went out to argue with West Virginia fans because they're over there, they're crying. Their governor put out like a bill protesting that they didn't make the NCAA tournament. Guys, you went 19-13 this past year. You were 10-10 in one of the worst Big 12 conferences in recent history. I get it. Tucker DeVries was out most of the year for you guys, and yeah, you are a better team than North Carolina. But you know what? If you're 19-13, you don't have the right to be complaining about it. I don't care. I don't want to listen to it. And then these losers on top of that, their basketball team says that the players voted and they didn't want to compete in the NIT because they were so upset that they didn't make the NCAA tournament. What losers they are! What entitled losers! You're 19-13, and they're out here crying and protesting not making the NCAA tournament. I can't stand it. You know what? Go to the NIT. You'd be one of the best teams there and have a chance at winning it.
Yeah,
if you went to the NCAA tournament, you're going to lose at best case scenario in the second round. So I mean, I can't stand it, and I just had to voice it out. So voice it out right there.
They're just mad that they're not getting paid extra to play NIT games, so they can go ahead and hit the transfer portal and go make some money somewhere else. West Virginia is not making the tournament this year, and they're not making it anytime soon.
Yeah. They need old Bobby Huggins back before that can happen.
Yeah.
And then one other thing, I just wanted to put it out there. You and I discussed this, so I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Many people are worried that Auburn's going to lose to Louisville in the second round. You and I are willing to put it out there. If Auburn doesn't make it to the Sweet 16, we will get rid of our podcast, Auburn Anonymous. You'll never hear from us ever again.
Yeah, and I'll give someone my podcast equipment who likes this post. There's no chance we don't make it to the Sweet 16. Louisville or Creighton?
What a joke. Yeah, what a joke. Yeah, we're making it to the Sweet 16. We're gonna make it much further than the Sweet 16, actually, but definitely to the Sweet 16. With that being said, I think that pretty much does it for our college basketball portion of the show. You ready to kick it on over to college football?
Yeah, we don't have too much here, but what you got? What kind of questions you got for the guru over here?
Well, not too much. I'm gonna kind of do my generic kind of just kick it off to you. But one thing I did want to throw at you before we start all this, I've been seeing things online about how Alabama's, I've been seeing stuff a lot lately about how we're Alabama's little brother. Alabama just owns us and everything, including basketball. Well, let's just start with football, okay? We're on football now. I was going through and looking at the recruiting rankings, and I went to the 2026 recruiting rankings, and I kept going down the list, and I'm thinking, surely Alabama must be here, and I keep scrolling down, and I'm thinking, where are they? I don't see them anywhere. Then I settle down to number 38 on the 247 Sports rankings, and I see Alabama at number 38 in the recruiting rankings. What in the world is going on there? Do you have any ideas?
I think this was a huge concern for Alabama when they hired Kalen DeBoer. Obviously, he had won everywhere he had been. A lot of that being kind of NCAA school, however you say that, not the NCAA. And he just hasn't been a big recruiter. You look at Washington, don't believe he ever finished in the top 25 of recruiting. Yes, he had a decent class this past year at Alabama. It was the lowest since 2008, I believe. But a lot of that came, midsummer when these donors just started, paying these recruits. He's just not great with the people. He's not a recruiter. And unless Alabama ups their NIL game, they're just not going to be able to maintain these top recruiting classes because Kalen DeBoer has no personality and he has no ability to recruit high school football players. And so, I personally think I know how this is going to go. Kalen DeBoer is going to end up being fired by the end of the season. If not at the end of this season, into the next season. I just don't think Alabama fans are going to be happy with another 8-4, 9-3 season. But being number 36 right now, we're almost in April. I would be very concerned right now if I was an Alabama fan.
Yeah, I would be too. I just saw that and I was like, that is something I had to bring up to you because you're the expert in all this stuff and I'm not too savvy with it all. But anything else you have for college football, or you didn't really have anything, to be fair. I just kind of brought up that question to you. Do you have anything else, or is that kind of it?
Not much. I will say, I know we talked a couple months ago about Auburn's 2026 QB recruiting. At that time, I believed it was going to be Jared Curtis, and I'm all about transparency on here and talking about when I'm wrong. And I'm wrong. We're not going to get Jared Curtis. He's down to Oregon and Georgia. And I think the reason we're not going to get Jared Curtis has nothing to do with us not being able to get Jared Curtis. It's the fact that Deuce Knight came into Auburn, and they saw how good this guy was. And they're like, why would we pay millions of dollars for a QB in the 2026 quarterback class when we already have our guy? You're hearing things about him you never heard about Walker White. There's people in the building thinking that he needs to start this year. He looks that good. And I think he's the obvious QB of the future. So why would you pay millions of dollars for a 2026 quarterback? So we're not. And I think Auburn really likes Travis Burgess. That's my new prediction for the 2026 quarterback. Currently ranked the number 30 quarterback on 247 Sports. Auburn sees him as a guy who's underranked right now. He's a 6'5", 200-pound quarterback, plays for Grayson, who came up and beat Thompson High School in the first game of football last year. He was a starting quarterback for them. So I think he has a lot of upside, big size, and won't cost us nearly as much money. So I think that's who they're going to roll with. They might try to see if some of these higher-ranked guys want to come to Auburn for cheap, but I don't think they will.
If I recall correctly, you said about Jerry Curtis, the thing that's going to decide it is NIL. So even though we're not getting him, and you're wrong on that, it appears that that is the reason you were wrong. You did kind of call that. You did kind of call that, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, 5-star quarterback Ryder Lyons took a visit to Sacramento State just a few weeks ago, and he's one of those guys. He's like, I'm not going to lie to you. I heard him talking to a reporter the other day. He's like, I'm not going to lie. NIL plays a big factor in my recruitment. And he said, I mean, imagine you got a job offer for your real job to get $150K more to go somewhere. You would probably take it. And he makes a good point. Like, a lot of these recruits don't want to seem like they're money hungry, but, I can't blame a kid if they're getting paid $200,000 more to go somewhere else. I mean, I can't really blame them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely. I mean, it really has become to where it's like a semi-professional sport. So you're just going to get that. And quite frankly, I get it. I'm a diehard Auburn fan, and if I was good at any sports growing up, good enough to play at the collegiate level, and if Auburn said, we'll pay you, I'm throwing numbers out there, we'll pay you $100,000 to come play at Auburn, but then Georgia came to me and said, hey, we'll pay you $1 million. Go Dogs it is, From that perspective. I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's exactly as you just described it. But, you can't blame them for it, I guess.
Yeah, I think these kids got to be more prepared. We can't hear the argument, oh, he's a kid, don't be mean to him, don't say that. I mean, these kids they're professional athletes now. They're getting paid money. Like Coleman Hawkins at Kansas State is a prime example. He was paid $2 million to play basketball at Kansas State this year. And, I mean, the fans have the right to be mad at him because they wasted $2 million on him. They spent, a huge amount of their NIL to get him to come play basketball, and they didn't even make the tournament. So when you're willing to accept that amount of money, you got to be prepared to accept some criticism as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on that as well. And I've seen that posted online, and I couldn't agree more with it. For example, for Auburn, I'll give all Auburn fans an example that's very close to home. Peyton Thorne, right? I think Peyton Thorne's a great guy. He represented Auburn University extremely well off the field, and he had some games where he played very well. But let's just be honest, he didn't perform to the level of an SEC quarterback at Auburn. He did not live up to it. That doesn't mean we can go be crazy, but at the same time, he got paid a lot of money to come to Auburn and play football here. So does it make it to where you can criticize? It's kind of okay to publicly criticize him. I think so. I mean, I'm with you. No, I mean, I think you have to keep it respectful. He's our guy, and again, he's represented us well off the field. But I'm a little more okay with him taking some heat because he is getting compensated very handsomely to come play football here. And same with all these other athletes like Coleman Hawkins. With that being said, do you want to kick it over and talk a little bit of college baseball before we end the show?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
What you got?
Let me ask you, did you watch any college baseball this past weekend?
I sure did not. I kept up with the scores on Twitter. That's about all I did. I saw some highlights. I was watching all the conference tournaments, preparing for March Madness. I will start watching college baseball after basketball is over. But right now it's all basketball for me, so I'm just checking scores. Was kind of surprised to see we won the series this weekend. I know Vanderbilt's a top 15 team. I saw that kid Bailu, however you say his name, hit a grand slam. I believe it was in the first game.
K. Ballou.
Yeah, K. Ballou hit a grand slam in the first game when we were down by 3, which pretty much won us that series. So, 2 solid wins for Auburn. I honestly, I told you before the year, I didn't have high expectations for this baseball team, but they're starting to go up and up, and another two top 25 wins for Auburn this weekend.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. The one thing I will throw at you, that was in the final game of the series on Sunday, that K. Ballou Grand Slam. So I'll kind of give you my story. I watched most of it watched most of the game Friday night, where Vanderbilt slipped out to an early 2-0 lead. And then it was all Auburn after that. I think we hit a home run or two, and next thing you know, we had the lead, and we were never looking back. Second game, it was kind of the opposite. If I remember correctly, we actually took a little lead early, and then Vanderbilt came out, hit a couple home runs, and next thing you know, it was all Vanderbilt. And as you mentioned, Vanderbilt is ranked a little bit ahead of us, but they're historically a baseball powerhouse. I mean, Dansby Swanson, David Price, among others. They're a baseball powerhouse. And I saw where our cousin, we were talking about it last weekend. We were talking about scholarships and stuff. He made a comment about how, I forget exactly what it was, but he was talking about how Auburn and Alabama gets a little dinged on the scholarships compared to other SEC schools, so it's an uphill battle. But third game, the second game, I really didn't watch much of it because it was kind of conflicting with Auburn versus Tennessee basketball game. The first game I watched because I wasn't really doing anything else that Friday night. Sunday game, I didn't really care. I mean, sure, the basketball was great, but I didn't really have a reason to watch it because I was like, I'm just looking forward to the Auburn's not playing. The bracket's going to be announced tonight, so it is what it is. So I kind of settled in and watched Auburn Vanderbilt, and saw Vanderbilt go up 6-2, and so I kind of went off and I started doing other chores, did some cooking, that kind of thing, and I come back later and I see Auburn's cut it at 6-3, and the next thing you know, we hit a freaking grand slam in the 8th inning to come back and win the series. This is a pretty epic way to end the weekend and lock up a series win against a very good Vanderbilt team. And I think even more important than getting a series win against the SEC team, it solidifies, I guess, kind of after last year with all the struggles, all the losing the close games and losing all the SEC series, to start off on a positive note, to kind of rewrite the script from last year. Get all the guys in a positive mindset and saying, hey, it doesn't matter how good of a team it is, we can win a series against any SEC team. You can't start the season better than that in the SEC play. And then you look at this upcoming weekend, we play at Kentucky. I think they're solid, but they're not world beaters. We can easily go up to Lexington and at least get 2. And that would be a great thing if we can go up and do that. I saw where they went and Kentucky won one game at Georgia this past weekend, and Georgia's a top 5 team. So Georgia's legit, and Kentucky's legit, but I think they're around the top. I think they're towards the bottom of the top 25 right there with Auburn.
Yeah, I forget about that scholarship advantage. Yeah, I know. I don't know how that works these days with NIL, but I don't even know if we really pay our baseball players NIL. I'm sure they get some, but not a lot. But yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I would love to go to Omaha. I've never been before, but I don't know if that'll happen this year. Obviously, you're the baseball guy on this podcast, so I'm learning from you right now.
Well, hey, I'm kind of new to following it super closely. It's been really fun. The pitching staff for Auburn's much improved this year. We gave up some runs to Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt has an offense, so that's going to happen. But we went toe for toe. They all look pretty solid out there, so that's something that's been real fun. And we have a bunch of guys out there who are really capable in offense. Ike Irish, I'm sure you've heard that name. He's towards the top of MLB draft boards at the catcher position. He's hitting it really well. Cooper McMurray, really good first baseman, hitting, and then a bunch of good players. You can go on and on. They've been fun to watch. Baloo he's been really cool because he was the one who hit that walk-off, and then on top of that, he was the one who hit that home run the same day his mother had passed away from cancer. So he's had a real inspirational season already, and the season is still young, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it. But Michael, do you have anything else to add? If not, we can go ahead and close this podcast out.
Yeah, one more thing. Just putting this offer out here. I made this offer during the Alabama-Oklahoma football game, and I'll make it personally again for my AA Jackson Arnold Twitter. If Alabama makes the Final Four, I will delete it. No more AA Jackson Arnold. You'll only hear from me on the Auburn Anonymous Twitter page. No more AA Jackson Arnold though. And I just don't see Alabama making the Final Four with Duke in their region.
Yeah. So Alabama fans, you have a great opportunity here. If Auburn loses before the Sweet 16, and then on top of that, you make the Final Four, not only do you get to gloat over Auburn fans, but Auburn Anonymous won't exist anymore, and neither will Jackson Arnold AA. Very exciting times for you. So good luck, Alabama fans. Good luck.
I'm so scared.
All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for checking in. I'm Ashton Daniels, AA. I'm here with Jackson on AA. We're out.
A knows.
AA knows.